Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. It's been almost 2 months in which I was sick, and the contract between the company I was at and the company that hired me sort of ended, and I was kind of bummed out about not having a job. I was sick like three weeks, and the child was sick, and the wife was. Everyone. Anyway, couldn't talk, couldn't do stuff. You would think that I had more time and I could make a lot more videos. Me too. But then somehow that didn't happen. So here we are, and we shall begin. So this video, I want to talk about the costs of living in Germany.
I think you did the right thing.
But at what cost, number one?
They are sometimes tricky. This was following one of the Facebook expat groups in Germany. Someone asked like, what is the cost of living in Germany? I was like, it's probably a video. So here we are. First thing, like there are two parts. There's basics and then there's like luxury. The basics themselves are not very expensive. I usually have like an Excel sheet where I write like my rent, my phone, my internet, my food, and so on. I used to track those things, and I have more or less of a ballpark like value for those things. But highly depending on like where you want to live, or maybe you want to know what the cost of living, so that you know where you want to live. There's a website that lets you calculate the cost of living in certain places in the world. You can also compare it to, I will link it below. You can compare cities, you can compare a bunch of things. You have to notice though that for Germany, if you have like a city, I don't know, I think Frankfurt has 26 people who wrote values for things, like how much a coffee costs, how much whatever. So it's not going to be a very accurate value. You have things like New York, I don't know, 20,000 different people put in numbers for like rent and things like that. I am sort of maybe over promising, but I will do in the future a video about how to find an apartment in Germany. I already have a video about how to find where to find employment, where to get a job. I will try to have a complete like playlist of how to find things. Anyway, so cost of living, I break it down to the very basics are rent. You have to live somewhere, and it's like, I think 400 is the bare minimum that you can find. Mind you, inside the city center, it's not going to be 400. 400 maybe for a vegan, and you will live with roommates, and it goes up to like 4,000. You can find someone who will take your money. Don't worry, they will take your money. I think a good place to be with rent is like they usually say no, not more than a quarter of your income. So like if you have 4,000 netto income, 1,000 is reasonable for rent. Lower is better, of course. But if you're making like 1,500 a month netto, don't go for a house or an apartment that's 1,000 per month. That makes no sense. Frankfurt and Berlin and Munich are expensive as shit. So here basically you need to make the decision. Do you want to pay a lot of rent, or do you want to drive a car? The public transport in Germany is really atrocious. It is FUBAR, simply FUBAR. And I have zero trust in the public transport. Yes, if you like work inside the city and you live in the city, fine. Although I would take a bike. If you need to commute from one city to another, good luck to you. You might spend anywhere between 30 minutes and 3 hours outside just for one side. Mileage may vary. Anyway, food. I calculate usually 120 euros per person per month. This varies a lot. Can you cook? Do you cook? Do you eat a lot outside? Eating outside is a lot of money. Again, depending where. Like in Berlin, you can have a meal for like 4 to 10 euros, something like I don't know, burrito or a burger or whatever. Frankfurt, you're gonna pay the Frankfurt price. because this is how Frankfurt is. They love the money. But if you are buying just like supermarket, I also have a video about supermarkets and where to buy and what to do and stuff like that if you're interested. Like, yeah, if you go to Edeka, if you go to Tegut, it's not going to be as cheap. But if you go to like for the cheaper options, you can eat for very cheap and your health may suffer. Let's put it that way. Internet, you can get it as low as like $20, and I'm guessing they will take like, I'm sure you can find for 80. It should be around 25 for, I don't know, like 16 or 25 megabits per second, something like that, something around that area. Phone, I personally paid $8 in a prepaid from Aldi for a very long time. I upgraded to the 12. I know there are packs of like 40 and $50 per month. If you need it, go for it. If you don't, you can get it for pretty cheap. Now, if you opted out for public transport, you will have, and you use it regularly, you will have to have a Monatskarte or a Jahreskarte or a, yeah, the Wochenkarte doesn't really make sense. In Frankfurt, I know that it's around 80 euros. I'm guessing it's similar in all other places, all other like cities, let's say plus minus 30%. If you're a student, you get it for relatively cheap. I think 300 euros for the Jahreskarte. You can correct me on that, gladly. But if you go for the car option, so you have to pay car insurance, you have to pay circulation tax, you have to pay gas. What does that mean? Personally, I have a hybrid, so I pay 30 euros circulation tax a year. If you have a diesel, that's also polluting, and an SUV because maybe you're German. I'm foreshadowing my next videos. So you're gonna pay a lot more. I think I have the calculation in the money saving video on my channel. And then diesel or benzene costs anywhere between €1 and 1.3 euros per liter, unless you're tanking on the Autobahn, and then it's gonna be like 1.6, 1.7. Good luck to you, don't do that. And then you can also go for the bike option instead. I wouldn't ride a bike that's less than 200 euros second hand, but that's my personal preference. Like, I know there are bikes for 20, 30 euros in like flea markets, if that's still a thing anymore. But yeah, I would go for eBay Kleinanzeigen or actually go to a shop like, I don't know, Decathlon or whatever. So that should be pretty cheap, but then you have to maintain your bike. Like, you have to oil it, you have to change tubes, you have to change tires, brakes, and whatever. Like, it's not a plug and play experience. It also costs money. So eating out, like things in Frankfurt, I always laugh at it, but it's actually like around 3-4 euros for a cup of coffee. If you sit somewhere, you can get the coffees for like 1 or 2 euros. Still, usually not worth it. The coffee is always horrible. You can check out my videos about coffee. I hate the coffee outside. It's ridiculous. If you want to go for Starbucks, yeah, like Starbucks is expensive. It's an expensive chain. I don't even know if they're still open because they closed a lot. But yeah, like upwards of 5 euros for whatever potato that you order at the Teke. So those are basics. Usually, like, you can get around like your normal regular expenses around 800 to 1,000 euros a month. And then with insurance, you can go all the way up to like 1 million. I think bare minimum of insurance is like the mandatory insurance and then a third party insurance. I think that can be under 200 euros. But then you have the loss of working ability insurance. You have the extra insurance for your kids, extra insurance for glasses, for theft, for work, for attorneys, for lawyers, for those two are the same thing. There's all the insurance. If it's like Rule 34, except for insurance, if you can think about it, there's an insurance about it. All right. And now, the next thing is like luxury. You want to go out and eat outside every day? Okay, you can do that. It has a price. Like, months that I eat mostly inside are significantly cheaper than months where I eat outside a lot. Usually I cook a lot in winter and eat outside in summer. Logish. And then it's like the choice of which city should I live in? Like, how do I choose a city? And the first thing you have to know is that you need to work, and so you have to, like, if you want to be self-sustaining and you're not a tourist here, or I don't know, your parents are sending you money and you're just basically partying wherever it is, so you're gonna have to find work, and depending on where your work is going to dictate like where you're gonna live. If your work is in Frankfurt, good luck to you. Everything is fucking expensive. You will have to probably live outside the city and commute, and it's awful. Berlin, from what I hear, is relatively going in that direction, a bit lagging behind Frankfurt. Expensive. You have things like WG and Anmeldung nicht möglich. Like, oh, I can sublet this to you and make money, but you're not gonna be doing an Anmeldung. That is, by the way, not cool. On the scale of cool to not cool, it is not cool. Usually the work dictates where you live, and then that dictates can you afford to live in that city. For example, there are like mid-sized towns in Germany. Like, there's Dorf, which is village. There's big cities like Hamburg, Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, so on. And then there's like the in between that are like, I don't know, they are called whatever Berg or Burg or whatever. Those are usually cheap. I say usually because I live in one of these and they are relatively expensive. I think for like optimizing, also depends where. Like Hamburg area it's still not super expensive. Munich area, yeah, good luck to you. Mega expensive. Mid-sized towns, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you to go to a small village because life is different there. Like, you're an Ausländer after all, so I don't know. Like, it might be amazing, it might be not be. So I don't know. Let's put it under maybe. Anyway, so you can get like nice houses for rent or nice apartments for rent, like I don't know, maisonette, two floors, amazing shit. I look at them in Immobilien Scout every so often, and it's like, oh, look at this, 500 euros, 120 square meters, great, amazing. But it comes at the cost of either driving, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes each way, or like you bike. I don't know. Some places are bikeable. My personal limit is like around 20 kilometers each way. That should take less than an hour, and you get to exercise. But then there's winter, and then it's like, oof. Yeah. So you have to research that, because you might get something that sounds like a good deal. Like you get paid a lot of money in Munich or Frankfurt. But then you go through the calculation and it comes down to, oh, I have 400 euros a month for like whatever I want to do, like going out, entertainment, sports. Not that it's very, very relevant right now, at the end of October. But these things, yeah, it can be the difference between I have a great life and, oh, this is not much better than where I came from. I'm assuming you came from another developed country and that you didn't run away from like war or whatever it is. Those people are very welcome in this channel, but this video is not quite for them because they don't really have a choice. Right? And then luxury, like what is luxury? In my opinion, luxury is whatever you don't have to have in order to survive. So cinema, climbing, gyms, I don't know, going to concerts, going to festivals, going to like shows, having a life, hobbies, doing a bunch of things that you just enjoy for your free time. I don't know, going out to clubs, going out to bars and so on. Now, these things are usually very cheap. Like beer, for example, is cheap. Of course, if you go outside to Frankfurt, they're gonna charge you like 5 times what they charge in the supermarket, but you pay for the experience. Festivals in Germany, I think usually entrance is free. Like you have a Stadtfest or a Diebe Messe in Frankfurt. What is it called? You can buy like a street food place on whatever it is, like Christmas market style. Except there's no Christmas market this year. And these things, like these expenses, they accumulate, right? But it's not mega expensive. It's not like I personally ran away from a country with a very high cost of living and a very low salary, like average. It shows like you can save money in Germany. You can do things like live a nice life, have all your expenses, all your bills, no debt, and then also save like a couple of €100 each month after all your expenses. It is possible. You just need to do a bit of accounting for yourself. It's called budgeting. Everyone should do it. This is, so it's like I think at the end of the day, you have to decide what kind of city fits you best. Of course, you cannot know that in advance. You have to like live there or visit or somehow go there. Usually it's in the form of being a student. Like I think being a student in Germany is the best way to integrate into society. Other than being born here, I guess. Makes sense. But like if you go to some city, some mid-sized town, like you don't know what the people are like, what everyone around you is going to be like until you live there. But if you live there, it might be already too late because you already have a contract and with work and with this and with that. Specifically right now, it is very difficult to find a work in Germany. Slowly everything is crumbling down slightly later than the rest of but yeah, these are hard times. It will be over at some point. I think very much hope so. Of course, with any of these prices, you can go like, oh, I got a deal on this, I got a deal on that. But these are just average values. So this site is called Numbeo, cost of living website, where you can compare different countries basically, or different cities or states maybe also. And it gives you some some average value of like let's say Frankfurt is 50% more expensive than Eindhoven, things like that. And they have a breakdown of like meals inexpensive in a restaurant, or meal for 2 people in a mid-range restaurant. What is the average price for McDonald's? Beer, coffee, water on the street, like water in a small bottle that you might buy in a kiosk or something. Basic food like milk, bread, rice, eggs, cheese, chicken, apples, bananas, oranges, tomato, potato, tomato, onion, wine, and then like transportation and so on. So this is a very good ballpark value if you want to know, like, should I go to this place? Like I had a couple of offers from the Netherlands, and I had to consider, like, they always ask you, hey, how much money do you want to make? And I'm like, how much does it cost to live there? It doesn't matter. If it costs 200,000 a year to live, I'm gonna lose money if you pay me 100. Like, you have to know those things, because you might find yourself in a pickle if you move like countries, and suddenly that amount of money that you get offered is like not manageable to live. And then you have like apartment rent, childcare, and so on. And then let's do a small thing too. We can compare Aachen to Frankfurt. Let's say I did this once, and then it tells you like let's see transportation. Monthly pass, Frankfurt 91, Jesus fuck. Aachen 70, 20% difference. Rent per month in the city center, 1,000 on average in Frankfurt, and then half of that, 550 in Aachen. It used to tell you how many entries each of these had, but like at the top they say you would need around 3,000 euros in Aachen to maintain the same standard of life that you can have with 4,000 euros in Frankfurt. assuming rent in both cities. Frankfurt is expensive, very expensive. So this is a very useful website for ballpark. It is not very accurate, but you know, plus minus 10% is good enough to know if you cannot estimate this properly. So we are concluding this video. I'm glad to be back. I hope you are also. And I will see you in some other video. Alright? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and tell me what you think. And tell me how you're happy that I'm back in my videos.